It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. I'm the president of Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. You can find a link to my work at emailrevealer.com. You can also go there and find get an autographed copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. But all kind of services, adoption investigations, asset searches, locates, background reports, infidelity investigations, emailrevealer.com. I'd like to welcome our new sponsor, CartKing.com. Have you thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Perhaps your current business wants to add multiple points of sale locations across the country quickly. Maybe the facility you manage could kickstart revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services by putting one of these carts in the lobby. Well, CartKing.com can be the answer to your needs. CartKing.com is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile retail, coffee, and food carts and kiosks that money can buy. For 20 years, CartKing.com has been working with clients and corporations across America to provide indoor and outdoor carts, kiosks for any application, from large, heated, and secure outdoor retail or food kiosks to smaller, more mobile coffee stations, coffee carts. CartKing.com designs and builds them all. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on the website at CartKing.com. Please visit today, CartKing.com, or just call them at 1-877-986-7771. 877-986-7771. Okay, this is gonna be a tough show, guys. We have with us Madonna Wallen, and she's the mother of Natasha Cornett. And this is a story, you might have seen it on TV or read about this. This is a horrific story with these kids who got involved in the occult and blood rituals and witchcraft. And it took a horrific turn now where I believe they're all still in prison for life. We'll get all the details when we speak to Madonna Wallen. She's the mother of Natasha Cornett. Mrs. Wallen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much. Before we get started in this whole story, can you tell us about yourself? Who is Madonna Wallen? How would you describe yourself?
Well,
tough one,
I am just another mother, and that's what I have always done. And I do volunteer at Thankful Hearts Food Pantry. I'm one of the secretaries there. We give out food to the needy, and I hope we're helping people. I'm pretty sure we are. And I work for two great people, Danny and Teresa Scott, and it's a pleasure to be able to help and be busy, because it keeps my mind off Natasha, and that's what's on my mind at all times. Praying that someday that somebody's going to show up and get her out of that prison.
Where are you living these days?
I live in Pikeville right now. We lived at Betsy Lane and that's where Natasha went to school. And after some incidents happened at Betsy Lane, they decided that Natasha should change schools. She was in her freshman year, and there was a senior that would come every morning that Natasha would come to school, and it was a bully. And it got so that Natasha just didn't want to go to school, and the principal even called Natasha a freak. The girl called Natasha a freak, and I guess other things too, but that Natasha didn't tell me. But they decided that she needed to change schools. Instead of the bully changing schools, she had to. So she went to Pike Central, and then she was changed from there to the Pikeville City School after she came to live with her dad for a while. And then when she became 16, she just said, "Mom, I want to quit." Mm-hmm. And I let her because she wasn't getting any education anyway. And I thought maybe I could do better at home, but
let me ask you this: before back to it, how old were you when you gave birth to Natasha?
Let's see. Okay, she's 38 now, and I had her in January the 26th, 79.
Okay.
And that was, I guess, things started happening to her before she was even born.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they say that if the mother's not happy or upset, the baby can tell it too.
Right.
And I made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake with Natasha. I mean, I made a mistake by getting involved with another man, and I became pregnant. Him telling me that there was no way I could get pregnant. So for 9 months, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I lost a lot of weight, and the doctors were getting worried about me. And then 6 months, when Natasha was 6 months old, they found she had a problem with her heart. She had a hole in her heart, and it was overly enlarged. And we had to wait until she was 16 months old, and she had open heart surgery. Hmm. And after that, she was just, she was very intelligent, even from the start. Even in daycare, she would go and take care of the ones that other people didn't want to be around. If they had something wrong with them, she would befriend them.
Yeah, that's what my daughter used to do too. Yeah, no.
At an early age, yeah. And she's still like that. Even at this age, she is still doing that. She's trying to help the people that are in prison, the girls, or the ladies, and I think that's why she has so much trouble in prison. It's not trouble, but they don't want people to help the other ladies, I don't think.
Now, was Natasha your only child?
No, I have an older daughter. She's 58. There's I had Valina when I was 19, and when Valina was 19, I had Natasha. So there's 19 years difference in all of us.
Wow.
That was the odd thing, too.
Yeah, what are the odds of that? Yeah.
And it just one thing. I mean, she had asthma when she was small. She would go to school, and she'd have the office cough or was, and then finally she had to take her breathing machine with her to school. During all of this, though, she made straight A's. She didn't start falling back until she went into the 8th grade.
Now, did you raise up, because you sound like you have a faith now, you work for this, what's that, like a food pantry. Did you always have a faith your whole life? You? Yes.
Yes, my dad was a preacher. He was a Free Will Baptist preacher.
A Free Will Baptist preacher. Okay, then was Natasha raised in the church?
Well, I guess she brought me back to the church. I had quit going, and she started going, and she was the one that led me back. God led her lead me back. I'm not in a church right now, but I have the enormous faith that there is a God.
And she led you back. This is after she's in prison, or when she was a young girl?
No, that was when she was like 12 years old.
So when she was 12 years old, she had and was this a Baptist church as well?
It was Methodist.
Methodist. Okay, so she got you
Yes.
back in church when she was 12. Now, when did she start dabbling in the occult? When did you start noticing that?
Okay, I have to tell you the truth about that one.
Okay.
My mom bought me a Ouija board when I was 11 years old. But I never went into depth as like Natasha and some of her other friends did. It was just a game to me. But I was always fascinated with what made that little thing, move. Because I could put both my fingers tips on that little thing, and it would just go all over that board, and I was fascinated. I looked at it. It's got a little nail in the middle of it, and I thought, well, what is this? Why does it do this? And I've always, I guess, even though I'm so religious, I guess I'm curious about the other side, too. I always read books on things. I even joined a book club, and it was, I know one book that had information on how to tell fortunes and all this, and it was called, of course, The Black Book. And Natasha was saying something about a Ouija board, and she said, Mom said, didn't you have one? And I said, yes. And she wanted to know if I still had it, and I said, yes. And that's what started it. I mean, my board was the metal kind. It wasn't paper or anything like that. It was the metal kind, one of the first ones out of probably. And I didn't think about, I figured Natasha would be just like me, just, fiddle around with it for a while and then just, put it back someplace and never even touch it again. But that wasn't the case in her. She really thought she was talking to people. They would, ever who was there with her when she used it or when anybody used it, they would put down every letter that the little pointer would go to. And it would write out a message. I don't know now that this might be causing a lot of kids to get curious too, but I don't know what caused that. Well, I guess I do. Maybe the devil did it. If there's a God, there's a devil. And he had a lot of little teenagers there, and but they really she wasn't cutting herself then.
Well, let me ask you that before we get to the cutting. Now, with the Ouija board, she became like obsessed with the Ouija board. But when she would talk to you about it, did it seem harmless, or were you worried?
Talk about talking to this. I forget what the person's name was, but he had a name. And they would carry on conversations. Now, this was all done, back in her bedroom. If she had friends in, I never went back and investigated what they were doing or anything, but I didn't think, I was there watching both doors. I didn't see anything going on. But I was always there. They knew that. And I told her, I said, this is not real. I said, that's just the Ouija board. I said, I don't think you can talk to anybody. She said, Mommy, said, we do. And said, they tell us a lot of stuff. I never did go into asking her exactly what was told to her or any. I figured, when she got ready, she would tell me, because she always did. If she thought that I was worried about something, and she would always tell me whether she had done this or that,
Now, let me ask you a question, because when my daughter was 11, 12 years old, she was responsible enough that I wouldn't be concerned. I knew she was going to get her homework done. I knew she was going to bathe and brush her teeth. And I knew I wasn't worried. I knew she wasn't going to cut school. I knew she was a good kid. But so was this the kind of thing where you had no concerns about her otherwise? So when she started this obsession,
I had no concerns whatsoever, because she was even in daycare. I mean, we were coming home from. I went to night school, and she was in daycare during the day, and then while I was in school, she had a babysitter from the daycare that took care of her. And we were coming from Pikeville one evening, and she, right out of the blue, and she said, "Mom, I'm special." I said, "Honey, I know you're special." I said, "You always have been special." She said, "No, I'm really special." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She just said, "I just know I'm special." And I know she went to church with the daycare and the people that took care of her in the evenings. And I don't know if that's where this special come from or not. But she was always special to her friends. They might have not been special to her. I mean, they didn't consider her special, but she cared about them. And she always, if they needed to talk to somebody, they would talk to her, and it would go no farther. She was just that kind. Maybe that was why she was special. She's still special. Even though she went through all this, she's still special, because she's still trying to help people.
Now, what about during the penalty phase of the trial? She had made some allegations from the stand that you used to beat her and abuse her and stuff like that. What do you have to say about that?
Well, my mom and dad were strict. I got one limb spanking from my dad. I never got another one because I never did do anything else.
Right. Only took one, yeah.
That one did it.
Yeah.
Natasha is just a little bit more stronger than I was. And you'll have to understand what I was going through with at that time. She was going, and she wanted to please her friends more than me. She cared about if I said anything about a friend in any way, saying, "Honey, you better be careful," or something like that, she would just get outraged, and she said, "You just don't want me to have any friends." Well, it would just go, we would just get into the argument royal, and she would say something. I was trying to be mom and dad at that time, and it was hard. I was going to school at night, working during the day, and sometimes my nerves, as I know a lot of parents will say, you lose it. And I lost it a few times. She thought I hit her in the head with my fist. I never hit her with my fist. I have slapped her on the back of the head. But most of the time, I would do the shoulders or the butt. I whipped her with a belt once, and the belt slipped from my hand, and the buckle hit her leg, and it bruised it. I never used a belt on her again. But when you're trying your best to raise that daughter and give her what she needs. And all her friends that were coming in to see her, sometimes I didn't know. I thought they come in, they stayed all weekend. They would.
How old?
I didn't know whether I was going to feed them or not, but somehow I always had something for everybody.
Now, when you were disciplining this way, with the belt and stuff like that. And by the way, I'm 55 years old. Okay, and I grew up in the Bronx, and my parents probably would get arrested today with the way things have changed. You know what I mean? I've been really, I've been disciplined, and slapped and beaten and belted and all spooned, all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Well, I think maybe if I had a brother that always told me, he said, you should be able to talk to them, just talk to them without spanking. But I don't think that is the way it is with the kids today.
Well, how old was she when you were spanking?
Don't talk to them.
When you were doing this spanking, how old was she? What age was she?
Well, let's see. When I had the worst trouble with her, it could have started in the 4th grade.
Okay.
She was a very preppy little kid at that time. She had to have every little hair in place, and she wore exactly what the other kids did. Everything matched. And some mornings I would, be having to hurry to get ready to go to work, and she'd want her hair in a ponytail. Well, if I didn't have it in one little ponytail with no hairs sticking up, then she'd say, you have to do it over again. Well, I broke I don't know how many brushes. Because I took it out on the brush. I didn't take it out on her. She ended up with a ponytail, but my nerves were shot. Really.
Okay.
I mean, I felt like shaking her. Yeah, I felt like just saying, fuzzing her hair up, and I do it yourself. But I didn't.
And how old? How long did the spankings go on age-wise? Like till she was 16, 17? How old did they continue?
Until she went to prison.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a little commercial break here. Okay, we're with Madonna Wallen, and she's the mother of Natasha Cornett. Natasha's got a life sentence, right?
3 life sentences.
3 life sentences, okay. And this is, if you're familiar with this case, sometimes it's called the Lillard murders. There's some sensational, they call her Satan's daughter. A lot of sensationalism around this case here because there was a pretty extreme crime with shooting and all kind of occult overtones. We'll be right back with more of... And now a word from our sponsors.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here from Life Change Tea. There's a lot of hubbub about the ramifications of GMOs. First of all, what are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms. Yee! Man-made organisms entering our body, changing and damaging us from the inside out. What's our defense? First of all, not eating them. Second, cleansing from them when we do eat them. Thank God for Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea cleanses from toxins, heavy metals, and helps flush GMOs out of your body. Our unique blend of herbs help cleanse you from the inside out, helping you feel refreshed and clean of yee. We also carry unique one-of-a-kind supplements. So order online at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Rid yourself of the yee that contaminates your food and water. Go to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Get the Tea, your best defense.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subhash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company. They're located in India, so you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service. They offer all sorts of business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshoring, research network, customer care, press release, content writing and distribution, and much, much more. Now, you can get a hold of Subhash Technosis by email at info@subhashtechnosis.com. Their website is www.subhashtechnosis.com, and their Skype is ANUSHASUBASH.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing you narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all the kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Madonna Wallen, and she's the mother of Natasha Cornett, who's serving 3 life sentences right now for these murders and the Lillibit murders. Now, Ms. Wallen, when you started seeing this, when she was 11, 12 years old, and you started seeing her obsession with the Ouija board, and she was actually communicating with these spirits. They had a name. They were spelling things out. Looking back now, do you think that she had actually made real contact with evil spirits that had ill will for her?
It's possible. You know, I believe that, there is a God and there is a devil. And the devil's alive and well down here on earth right now.
Mm.
It could have happened. People don't, believe in spooks or maybe people talking to people beyond. But I have to sort of agree with her. It could be because I don't have the same mental illness that Natasha does, but I did have a real bad problem at one time. But it was because of ex-husbands. It wasn't because of the devil or anything like that, unless he's working against me. But I didn't think too much about it because I didn't know this was going on, until she started talking about it. And there was a few girls that would come, and it would be girls in her class, a couple maybe, and some in a little older, but she started the cutting. I don't know if she might have been in the 8th grade, 7th grade. She always wore a lot of bangle bracelets on her arms, and I don't know exactly when. And I noticed a raw place on her wrist, and I pulled the bracelets and back, and there was, where she'd been cutting, it was all infected looking, and I told her to, get all those bracelets off right now and let me, doctor it. But there wasn't that many up and down her arm. Like after she lost 30 pounds in 1 month, and the doctor told me that she was anorexic, and that she was beyond his expertise, and he wanted her to see a doctor in Lexington. And I took her down there, and they said that she needed to stay there. Well, I thought they would really help her. And my older daughter went with me, and I didn't even tell neither one of them that I was planning on leaving Natasha there. I knew that Natasha wouldn't even go with me if she knew it. And I couldn't have forced her. But she stayed. And both my girls, I think, sort of hated me at that time. But she just stayed 11 days. And Natasha told me during one of the visits, she said, Mom said, I know what to do to get out of here. She said, I know the rules, and I know what you have to do to say, okay, you can go. But with her, it was different. Her medical card wouldn't pay for any more than 11 days.
Right.
So they told me then that she could either, hurt herself, or she could hurt somebody, that she wasn't well, and that she needed more psychiatric help. And I managed to, get it when we had a place here that they can go to. And but she never really trusted anybody here. She never trusted them down there, because she knew what you had to do to escape the place, I guess. And I thought, well, she's too smart for her own good.
How old was she when she was in this for 11 days?
Let's see, 14.
Okay, 14. And was her the involvement with the occult, was she even doing that in front of the doctors at the hospital?
No, she wasn't doing anything like that. I know when she first, they were sort of doctoring her because she was anorexic.
Right.
They would, they would give a meal, and she would have to stay within sight of them for like 30 minutes or longer before they would let her go back into her room, because they would be afraid that she would just, upchuck all the food. And she did gain, had gained some weight just 11 days, for 11 days. But she never did get really back to eating, and I'd say she still has spells where she doesn't eat. She would drink lots of fluid, but she wouldn't eat any solid food.
Now, when she was cutting herself, back in those days, that was very uncommon. Like nowadays, all the kids do it. They go through this phase where they cut themselves. It's very common in the middle schools and the early high schools. But back then, it really wasn't. Now,
No, she was beyond her age. Just like with there, at first she was wearing the clothes that everybody else wore. And when she got in, I think it was the 8th grade, she just quit wearing the preppy clothes, the matching clothes. She would, I don't know if you remember what year the skateboards came out.
Sure.
Well, she started wearing skater clothes. She had a skateboard. I would bring her up here to Pikeville, and she would use the skateboard. They had one street that all the boys rode their skateboards. Well, she was right in the middle of them. She always got along, I think, better with boys than girls. If they didn't, if she didn't like something they did, well, she did jump all over them, and she could fight as good as a boy could. That's why I don't, there's two sides to Natasha. There's this, I'm a special kind of person, and there's that person, you don't want to push Natasha. Don't do anything to Natasha that you might regret. But she's always stayed friends with everybody that she's ever been, included with. Even boys that she liked, she'd like them maybe a month or two, but she always kept them as friends.
Was there any indication of childhood sexual abuse with Natasha?
Well, yes, with my second husband.
And how old was she?
Natasha was, I was married to Ed at that time. I was getting ready to get my divorce when I met Natasha's daddy and became pregnant. And my oldest daughter told me something that Ed had been doing to her after she found out that I had filed for divorce. And I really, if my boss hadn't talked to me, I wanted to kill him. I mean, he messed my oldest daughter up completely. And Natasha told me years later that Ed had done some things to her too. I mean, you can be right with somebody all the time, right in the same house with them, and things can happen to your children that you don't even know about.
Now, she was acting out, you mentioned, with the eating. She had the eating disorder. She was acting out with the occult involvement. She was acting out with the cutting, the self-harm. Was she acting out sexually, too, as a young age?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Okay. I don't really know for sure. I know she told me later that there was two boys that had a bet on who would get to sleep with her first. And I don't know if they managed to do that or not. I don't think they did.
And how old was that?
That was when she was, I guess, over 13.
Okay, 13 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, a lot of things happened around the age of 13 for her.
Yeah, well, it looks like you keep saying 8th grade, all the stuff, the cutting in the 8th grade, the anorexia in the 8th grade, the clothing in the 8th grade, the black clothing turned up in the 8th grade. Now,
and the parents turned against her.
The parents turned against her?
Yes.
Which parents is this?
At the age of 13, I let her have her birthday party. When I was 13, my mom let me have a birthday party. And I'm going to tell you some games we played, and you probably won't even know what I'm talking about.
I bet I will.
We play post.
I bet you I will.
Office.
Sure.
And we played spin the bottle. And that was the idea. Do you know what post office is?
Yeah, when you go in the closet, and you,
you get a number, and then they call the number, and if a boy's in there, they call a girl's number, and you kiss, and then you call somebody else's number, and they go in.
Yeah, but you could also wait. The girl would also stamp on your foot. The girl would step on your foot, give you a stamp, step it on your foot, right?
No,
that's true. They don't want to kiss you; they would stamp on your foot, and that's why it was called post office. The stamp.
I didn't hear that one.
Well, yeah. Well, okay.
I don't know what went on, behind the door, but
right.
Here I was on one side of the door, and my mother and my sister-in-law was on the other door, so they couldn't have done much.
So you're saying that the parents turned against her?
With Natasha, she even had one of her girlfriends was in the room with the person, the other two persons, when they were calling in. Well, some of the mothers found out that I let them play post office. I don't know if they played spin the bottle or not. I don't know. I don't think they did, but most of the time they just listened to music and danced and like that. But after that, some of the girls couldn't come to Natasha's house.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to tell you before, I think because I had Natasha, and in a little town like Betsy Lane, everybody knows everything about you, no matter what. And they knew that I wasn't married to her father. And I got a bad name, and she got a bad name too. It wasn't her fault. But they didn't want their children, I think, associating with Natasha. And that did something to Natasha. It was just like, okay, she was feeling like, okay, what have I done? Why are they down on me? Even going to the church that we went to, one of the people that was in the church was a very well-to-do person, but she made differences in Natasha and the other kids. It was almost like, Natasha was branded because I hadn't married her father, or I got pregnant,
And you said also she was being bullied when she was a freshman. What was the nature of that? Was it what was the reason why that the bully would give?
Well, I guess it was the way she dressed.
Okay.
And the haircut. She was the first one to dye her hair an odd color. Now you go out and you see green hair, blue hair, red hair, purple hair, it's all out there. And you see haircuts like Natasha had. But maybe it was those magazines. I always got those women's magazines, and they had all the update, what you wore and what people were wearing in schools like California and places like that. And maybe I don't know where she got the idea for a haircut, but she cut one side short and the other side she left long. And she dyed it purple, and it turned some of the prettiest colors you ever laid your eyes on when it was washing out, and fading out.
Right.
I thought it was beautiful. I mean, no matter what, it grows back. It wasn't permanent. The haircut wasn't permanent. And the way she put the dye on it, it wasn't permanent. It's just like the people that came into her room, they all autographed her walls. They wrote poems on her walls. Somebody put an upside-down cross on her wall, on the closet door. I don't know who did that. She might have. I don't know. But, and some people ask me, why do you let her do that? And I told them, I said, it's a way she's expressing herself. Those children that come to see her, they're expressing themselves. And there's all kinds of paint out there. When Natasha gets grown, I'll paint the walls. But right now, that's her room. She can do what she wants to with it.
Now, some of these kids who would come visit, some of them moved in with her, right?
Yes. We had one girl that moved in with us, and she didn't move out until the trial was over. And then she moved in with one of her girlfriend, and they're still together today.
And that was because she was being, her parents wanted her to live with you. It was okay with them. She wasn't like a runaway.
She didn't have any parents.
Okay.
But the ones that moved in that weekend, one of them was Crystal. She didn't have any place to go.
Right.
Her stepdad had been molesting her. I can say this on radio because he was found guilty. And he paid the price for what he did to her. But she didn't, her mother wouldn't let her stay there. Her grandmother wouldn't let her stay there. So she knew that Dean was there. That was a friend of Crystal's too. And Natasha and Dean they'd went through school together, but they weren't, that close. But now him and Crystal were. And that's why Crystal wanted to come down and stay until the trial was over, that the trial that she was going to be in with her stepfather.
Was Dean one of the boys that was arrested in the
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
He was there just for the weekend. And I guess I can tell you something with, you can tell, during the trial, they were, telling who was the best parents and who were the worst parents. And I made myself look just as bad as I could because of Natasha. I thought, okay, if they think I was that bad mom, they can understand where she's coming from. But then you see Dean was there. I don't know if his dad had called and wanted him to come home or what, but him and his girlfriend showed up. And oh, by the way, he was at one time my son-in-law too. He was married to my older daughter, so Dean was like a stepchild to me too.
Okay.
And he came in and he had a ball bat in his hand. And he said, "Is Dean back there?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But where are you going with that ball bat?" He said, "I'm going to have to use it if I have to get him out of there." I said, "Not in my house, you're not." I said, "You don't take no ball bat back there." I said, "You can go back there." I said, "That thing stays right here." Well, the little girlfriend had something to say. "Why do you let these kids come in here and stay with you like this? Why are you being a mother like that?" I just took a hold of her elbow and I walked her to the door. I said, "Here's the door, you get out." And I opened it for her and pushed her out. She didn't come back in. I was a bad mama, wasn't I? I protected my cubs. But Dean left it. Randy left. Dean stayed. I wish that things had been different. I don't know If only. I've said that so many times.
Yeah.
If only. If only Jason Bryant hadn't come down to the house.
That's the 15-year-old.
Yeah, the 14-year-old.
14-year-old. Okay, now.
That was telling the girls he was 18.
Now, the thing is, though, because Dean says that he witnessed the girls cutting themselves and doing blood rituals and ceremonies and stuff like that. Were you aware of that going on?
No. I knew the blood thing was going on, but I didn't know there was any kind of ritual. And
well,
I don't know. I don't know if I would trust what Dean says or not.
What was the blood thing that was going on? Exactly what were they doing?
They would cut themselves, and then they would lick each other's arms off, I guess. I never seen them do it.
Okay.
I saw Natasha cut herself once, and that was not too long before all this happened. This was after Steve left her husband.
Right, because Natasha got married at a very young age. How old was she when she got married? Like 17 years old?
She was 16.
16 years old she got married.
Well, or maybe 7. I'm not sure, 17, because they were just married like 6 months, something like that.
Okay. Now, did you object to her getting married at such a young age?
I thought that maybe it might help her. She wanted away from me. I knew that. She was at the point that I could do nothing right in her eyes. And I thought, okay, maybe Steve and his parents could do something, but they ended up staying with me. I mean, it didn't help her. She didn't get rid of this bad mom, but she gained a husband that was even worse. So Natasha was very, how you say it, she didn't want Steve to leave her. She didn't want him to leave her to go to work. At night, some nights I would be up fixing the thing for the church on Sunday morning, and I would hear her crying. I mean, she would just be bawling. And I'd go back to the door, and I would hear, and I'd ask, "Are you okay?" And I could hear her say, "Don't let her in, don't let her in." Why? I don't know, because after she got married, we never connected. She never stayed in a room with me. She was always back in the bedroom with Steve. She never came to eat when I had supper on the table. I was keeping my sister that had had a stroke at that time too, and my sister thought that they were bringing food for me and not bringing anything for her. And I told her, honey, I'm eating the same thing you are. Steve and Natasha go out and get something to eat. They don't eat with us.
And what about Stephen? Was he involved in this occult activity too? He must have been, right?
Yes.
He was doing it too.
She went to her first satanic church with Steve. He had a satanic Bible. And some poems that he wrote were weird. Some poems that Dean wrote were weird too. I mean, they weren't nice poems. They're scary. I don't know what happened to them. Maybe the prosecuting attorney got them. I don't know. But
what was in the poems? Talking about murders or sacrifices? What was in the poems?
It was just more like hate things, you know. like, down with the world and nothing's okay with the world or anything like that. It was just things that when I read them, I just going through them real fast, and I thought, ooh. And then I found out Dean wrote them, and I thought, oh, Dean was supposed to be the one that's going to church, and he was supposed to be the one that wasn't into all this stuff. Well, Dean was too.
Mm.
And I don't know about the rest of them. I don't think Crystal was into the cutting or anything like that, but she had enough put on her in her childhood that you don't come through something like that without something bothering you.
Yeah.
Joe was in the same boat. Joe, I think his mom let him smoke pot, but so he would know what it would be like. So he wouldn't want it, I guess, when he got older. And he put on an act in that hearing. I mean, it shocked me to death. I said, that's not Joe. That is not Joe.
Okay. Well,
Joe was just a happy-go-lucky guy. He put on a big act.
Let's get into all that when we come back from the commercial break. We had to take a little commercial. We're with Madonna Wallen, the mother of Natasha Cornett, which was involved in this Lilith murders, very sensational trial with the involvement in cult and blood sacrifice and all kind of rituals. And now a word from our sponsors.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also AwakeRadio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What a bunch of crap! I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you even get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Madonna Wallen, who is the mother of Natasha Cornett, serving 3 life sentences for murder of a family, a young family there. Ms. Wallen, you mentioned that Steve had a satanic Bible and took her to a satanic church ceremony. They had a satanic church down there in Pikeville, Kentucky back in those...
No, in Lexington.
They had one in Lexington, Kentucky?
Yes.
Really?
At that time.
Okay, and was it a big church or a little church? Do you know anything better?
I have no idea.
No. If all these people in the house were doing this kind of stuff, they had a satanic Bible and stuff like that, were you ever lured in or tempted to get involved in any of this or fascinated with it?
No.
Not at all?
No, I didn't even know what they were doing. There was, boys that would come to see Steve, and they wouldn't come in the house. They would stay out in the car, and that's how Steve visits them. They didn't come in the house. I don't know why.
Well, maybe he was selling pot or something.
Maybe they were afraid of me. I don't know.
Well, did you ever think he was selling pot or something like that, and they would come to the house and he'd meet them out in the car?
I don't know.
You ever think of that?
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Natasha was friends with. She was dating a Deskins boy, and they had a band, and they came down and to practice one evening. It was daylight, broad daylight, and they were practicing, and the next thing I knew, Natasha says, "Mom, there's a policeman in here." And I said, "What?" She said, "There's a policeman in here." So I went, and he was telling the boys that they had to stop playing. I mean, it wasn't that loud. I didn't think anything wrong with it. Well, next door neighbor's man, the policeman had been there serving papers on him for non-child support.
Right.
And he said something about the music that was playing over at my house, and kids walking around the yard and all that stuff. So they investigated. And he might have he asked more than he got, because he called the police station, and I talked to the one in charge, and I told him, I said, "The kids are not taking dope." I said, "They weren't drinking." I said, "They were here just practicing their band." And I said, nothing bad was going on. Sure, they were out in the yard walking around when they weren't playing, but they weren't doing anything out of the way. These kids are good kids. And I said, if they did do drugs, they didn't do them here. And I said, this policeman comes in and tells them they all have to leave. He came in without knocking on my door. The policeman did. He just walked in like he owns the place. And I don't know if the one that was in charge that night that I talked to, I think it was the head one. I don't know what it was. But I'm pretty sure he got a balling out. I don't even know what his name was. But I thought, of all things, you know, if it had been dark, if it was disturbing somebody's sleep, it would have been different. But it was broad daylight. Nobody else didn't say anything about it. Well, that was the last time the kids came down and practiced at my house.
Well, let me ask you a question.
One little incident.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Like, this guy Steve, you know, do you know if he's still into Satanism today, or has he changed his ways?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't know. He's married now, and he's got a daughter. And one day I was on Facebook, and I saw something that she said about Natasha. And it wasn't good. So I just sent her a message and told her I didn't appreciate her calling my daughter names, because she didn't know what went on here, what went on in our family. And I said, Steve left her. He didn't even get in touch with her, nothing. He filed for divorce. She never saw him again. She went back up to his house that evening. She had me to take her up there, and she stayed 2 or 3 days waiting for Steve to come back, but he never did. And they didn't tell her where he was at or anything. She, of course, probably knew that he had went to Lexington to stay with those boys down there. And after that, her and this girlfriend of hers, they wanted to go see Valina. She was in Myrtle Beach at that time. She said, Mommy, I just need to get away. So I called Valina, and she said it was okay at first. But then the girls left, and Valina called me, and she said stop them. Said I can't handle teeny boppers right now. Well, I had no way, but Natasha either called me or her dad, and I told her that she couldn't go to Valina's, that, you know, she had to come back home. Well, she didn't. Her and the girl went to New Orleans, and they lived on the streets down there. Well, 1 week, I know of for sure. And the mother of the other girl, the one with the car and the license, she went down and got her. That was, Natasha would call and ask her dad, you know, for money. That, you know, they needed some money because anything to eat on. They were living on the streets. And he would send it. He would make sure I had it to send to her. Well, the mother of the other girl went down to New Orleans to get her daughter. She didn't let me know that she was going. That left Natasha by herself down there. They brought her clothes to their house. They didn't bring them home. She didn't have a change of clothes or anything. And while they left her down there, she was raped by 5 men while she was by herself. And she called me and told me to come and get her. And I got 2 of Natasha's friends that lived in the holler from me to come and take me down there. And she was supposed to have been at a place, some street, but she wasn't there. So we were driving around, and I noticed a motel where Natasha had said that her and this other girl had stayed when they had money. And I told the boys, I said, stop. I said, we're going to stay right here. and I'm going to call Roger and tell Roger that if Natasha calls, where I'm at. Well, it was like maybe 30 minutes or maybe an hour after we got the room that Natasha called me. And I told her, I said, honey, we're here. I said, I don't know where you're at, don't know how to get to you. I said, come to us. And she did, and she brought a boy with her, some friend that she had made down there. She wouldn't come home unless I let him come too. She was still afraid. I guess she was afraid that I would try to do something to her. I don't know. But I said, okay, I was willing to do anything to get her home. She took her shoes off, and I looked at her feet, and she had blisters on top of blisters where she had walked so much. And I think the other girl maybe stayed with somebody, met a guy down there and stayed with him, but she slept in abandoned buildings on the street or wherever she could.
What do you think it was that attracted her to New Orleans?
There's a lady that writes books down there. What is her name?
Oh, Anne Rice?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
She wanted to go meet Anne Rice.
Did she?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think that happened. But everything else did.
So she went down I
couldn't imagine her, being down there by herself. It just scared.
So she went down there because of her occult fascination. She attracted her to New Orleans, and even after the bad experience of being raped down there again, she went back and gathered up all her friends. And how long till they went back down to New Orleans?
They wanted to go, but she said that she wouldn't go again without a gun. I don't know why she said that. I guess if she didn't want to be raped again, probably. But with all of them, maybe she was afraid the same thing would happen to her again, that everybody would leave her and she would be there by herself.
Now, were you aware that she was leaving with this group to go back to New Orleans?
No, I didn't even know where they had gone to. I called Dean's friend, I forget what his name was, and I knew they were real close. And I asked him, if he's seen them. He said, yeah, so they're just out driving around. Well, that boy gave him one of the guns. The other gun, Karen went to get her money, and Jason broke the gun case and got another gun from Karen's house. It wasn't Natasha that got the guns. It was the boys. Now, and I don't... Jason even shot himself there when... I don't know, it was before they got picked up, or I guess, to make it look like maybe somebody had shot him,
right.
But he did it himself.
Now, did she ever talk to you and tell you what happened there with this family that they met and wound up killing?
Yes. She said that they had stopped. Well, her and Karen, they went to Jury's to eat before they even left Pikeville. And her and Karen wanted to come back home. They didn't want to go on and do anything. They just, thought different of it. But the boys had the guns, and, they were sort of kidnapped themselves. They had to go with them. I think Jason threatened that, if they didn't all go, he would kill some of them. And he would have killed Natasha if she hadn't moved. But he promised not. Natasha got between him and the lily lids, and was begging him, not to do that. That, they could just go on. Just leave them here. Don't bother them. And he said, "Oh, I'm not going." Said, "I promise. I won't hurt the kids." Natasha was worried about the kids.
Well, how many kids were there?
She thought maybe the parents would, do something. Maybe somebody would come to her rescue. Standing there in front of Jason with the gun pointing at her, and he told her, he said, "If you don't move, I'm going to shoot you."
Well, let me first of all, how many kids were there and their ages?
2. Oh, the ones that were with her.
The Lillard family.
2. There was a little girl. Maybe she might have been 5 or 6. The little boy, I think, was 2. He might have not been that old.
And the boy survived. He has a shot to the eye. Yeah, and I believe he's crippled now. He's handicapped.
Yeah, I think he can get around a little, but mostly he's in a wheelchair, and he lost one eye because Jason shot it. When Jason shot, I don't know how in the world he hit him in the eye, but he did. And the lily lids. Oh, this was just if Eric Kahn hadn't done, he was the one that started all this satanic stuff.
That's the lawyer.
He brought out everything that Natasha had ever done in that bedroom, the books that she had read, the things that she had done to herself, and made it like she was Satan's daughter. At one time, I knew Ed wasn't the father.
Wait, let's, because we're getting a little bit all over the place. Eric Kahn was the first attorney, your daughter's first attorney, and he's the one who went to the press and said she's involved in the occult, they're involved in witchcraft, they're involved in blood sacrifice, and he's the one that started all that. Why did he do that?
He wanted publicity, and he got it. He couldn't even practice in Tennessee. He didn't have a license to practice in Tennessee.
How did he become your daughter's lawyer?
Just for publicity for himself.
How did he become the lawyer? He contacted you, or you contacted him?
He contacted me through my neighbor. He told my neighbor to tell me to call him, that he wanted to be Natasha's attorney, and that it would be pro bono. He didn't want any money for it. And he went down to wherever they were held. He must have left right then. As soon as after he called me, after he talked to me, because he was down there. I know Natasha got one phone call, and she called me, and she was crying. And she said, "Mommy, I'm scared to death." I said, "Honey," I said, "just hang in there." I said, "There's supposed to be a lawyer that's coming down there." And I told her, I said, "He graduated with Valena. He's supposed to be a good guy, and he's going to handle it." Oh, he handled it all right. I didn't know.
Okay, so that's the story of Eric Kahn. But also, too, the story, the official version, the prosecutor's version of the murders was that, and they said it was Natasha's idea, that they wanted this family's van, and that they held them, they abducted them, they moved them to another location, and then when they shot them, it was like a ritual fashion that they were shot with triangles on their chests, and then the bodies were placed like crosses.
You mean he told that on the news?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that? Okay.
Oh, I hope he rots in prison. He's in prison himself now.
Who's that, Eric Kahn?
He embezzled millions of dollars from the Social Security system.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, they'll sue the Social Security system for their clients.
God.
Yeah, okay.
That is just so horrible.
So, but what is it then? You're saying that you don't feel that the murders had an occult significance? No.
Jason was the one that did the shooting. Jason was never The only time he was with them was in that motel room. Now, what happened in the motel room, I don't know. I know that Joe had brought in the next day, I guess, or that night. I don't know.
Well, let's stop for a second.
He brought in a TV and some shoes, and then that night is when I saw Joe's car, being pulled up on this truck. And I seen, too, that somebody was covered over with white sheets. And I thought, oh, my God, somebody has killed them. I thought Natasha was dead. Nobody got in touch with me to tell me that it wasn't them.
But when you mentioned the motel room, that's because they were like on the run from that motel room because they were being charged with vandalism in that motel room because of blood sacrifices and rituals that went on in that motel room. Am I correct?
No? There was no blood rituals. Sure, Karen and Natasha cut themselves. I don't think I don't even know if they know a ritual if they've seen one. But I don't know exactly what, but Natasha does. And Natasha would tell you exactly. She would tell you exactly what went on. And it would be the truth.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, remember I asked you earlier if you felt that they had experienced some kind of possession from the Ouija boards and all that stuff that they were doing, all that, and you said you didn't know. But what about Natasha? Does she think now that perhaps all her activity back in those days might have caused some kind of evil spirits to take hold of her?
No.
No?
No, she never has said anything about it.
Now, what about today?
She just needed, she said, when she cut herself, I asked her why she cut herself, and
right.
She said, Mommy, it stops the pain. I didn't know what pain that she was talking about. Still don't know what pain that she was talking about.
And now what about today? Is she does she still cut herself or involved in tarot cards or any kind of Ouija boards or anything?
In prison?
Yeah.
No, they watch them like a hawk down there. There's no way they could have tarot. They couldn't have any cards at all.
Okay. Now what?
And nothing sharp.
Right.
But she managed to find something sharp though when she tried to kill herself.
Now when was the suicide attempt?
It was in April. It was either right after the 21 years, since the little lids were killed. And I could tell that by talking to her, when I talked to her, she was getting really depressed because she always did. And it was much worse this time because they were having problems with the guards down there. And I could write a book about that one. But I didn't think about. She really meant to kill herself. She slit her throat. I mean, and they did tell me that if they hadn't passed the room and seen the blood running out the door, that they wouldn't have got to her in time. So she really, she was that desperate. She really, I guess she just knew it was going to be worse and worse and worse the longer she stayed there.
And people should understand too that when you have a family member in prison, really the whole family's in prison. It's not just the one person in prison. Everyone's affected. Everyone you've known. Now,
everybody, me especially. I mean, I've got family around here, but they don't come to visit me. I go to their house maybe once, maybe on Christmas or some other times when they invite me out, to dinner. But no, they believed everything they heard on the news, and they believed everything Eric Kahn said. And I can't get it out of their head that, Natasha had a problem. That's why she cut herself. She didn't hurt anybody else. And if those, I don't know what I would have done if I had been in that same position, but I don't think I would have been in that position anyway. She just wanted to get away from Betsy Lane. She wanted to get away from all the people here, the people that were putting her down, the people that were bullying her, the people that thought she was weak, and all because of Eric Kahn. I didn't know that he said all that stuff. I didn't.
Okay, this is a good time to take a commercial break. When we come back, I'd like to ask you about, because you mentioned that she's having some problems with the correction officers down there at the prison, too. If you want to give us a little idea what's going on with that. We're here with Madonna, Wallen. The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find the link to Subash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also AwakeRadio.us.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here from Life Change Tea. There's a lot of hubbub about the ramifications of GMOs. First of all, what are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms. Yee! Man-made organisms entering our body, changing and damaging us from the inside out. What's our defense? First of all, not eating them. Second, cleansing from them when we do eat them. Thank God for Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea cleanses from toxins, heavy metals, and helps flush GMOs out of your body. Our unique blend of herbs help cleanse you from the inside out, helping you feel refreshed and clean of yee. We also carry unique one-of-a-kind supplements. So order online at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Rid yourself of the yee that contaminates your food and water. Go to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Get the Tea, your best defense.
You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com. Every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at OppermanReport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you can get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time. WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Madonna Wallen, the mother of Natasha Cornett. Madonna, you wanted to tell us about that there were some issues with the correction officers at the prison. Can you give us an idea of what the problems are there?
Yeah, but first I would like to tell you something that had a great effect on Natasha. Before that,
okay,
I was going to a psychiatrist at that time, and I started having a lot of pain in my back. Thought it was my heart. They checked me for everything, and I had to go to Lexington to a doctor down there to find out what was wrong. It was a pain management clinic, and he told me that, he showed me with his hands, he said, your body is only able to do this much. If you go over that, something affects you. Your heart is the place where your pain is right now. And he said that's the place that means the most to you, is your heart. And he said that's why that you're having such much pain. Well, I was taken, one of the doctors had given me sleeping pills. This was when Natasha was in, I guess, maybe 6th, 7th grade. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But she got up to go to school one day. I had took one sleeping pill because I couldn't go to sleep and my mind was just going haywire. I took another one. I remember taking 3. After that, I don't remember anything until the next day sometime. She got up that morning and she said that I was laying in the bed with no clothes on. The pill bottle was on the floor, no pills in it, and she couldn't wake me up. She went to the neighbor's house, and he came down there, but he didn't call an ambulance or anything. I laid there in bed. She went on to school. She told the teacher, who the teacher was at that time, what had happened, how she found me. They didn't do one thing. They didn't come to check on me. They didn't believe her for some reason. They didn't help her. And she come home from school that evening. I was awake. But she thought she had laid there at my door on the floor all night until she had to go to school the next day. But nobody from the school came out to check to see what was going on at my home. Natasha started making F's when she was in the 8th grade. She changed them to A's when she let me see the report card.
No.
No teacher called. Nobody called. Nobody got in touch with me to let me know that something was bothering Natasha, that she had just quit. I knew she started wearing the different clothes, but I didn't know how bad that it had hurt her mind. And then when she started in high school, she had the same thing. The bully was okay. She had to leave school. The parents of the children wouldn't let their children come to see Natasha because they thought we were bad people. We were not good people. So that's why Natasha wanted to leave. she thought maybe someplace else somebody might be different. But she went and she got raped because she was by herself. So I guess they just all wanted to go. It wasn't one person's idea. Karen was the only one had any money. Karen divided the money, the $500 that she had babysitted, and saved the money herself. It wasn't stolen money. She divided it between all six. And Crystal and Dean were in the car. They were behind the van. Joe and Jason was in the van. They took control. Joe and Jason was at the table. They had already got the lily lids to the table. Joe had brought the gun out and said, "We're going to take your van." Well, they took them too. And all of this happened. Then they went to that little hollow, and instead of just leaving the people there, and they left their little blue car there, they knew, I don't know if they took the plates off of it or nothing, but I knew whose car it was the first time I seen it. And then nobody helped Natasha then either. Nobody came to back her up. She tried. She tried to stop it. And the guy that got on television and said it sounded like kids at a playground laughing and playing, he should have listened just a little bit better. They were crying. They were screaming. Joe and Jason was laughing. I heard that. Natasha didn't tell me. But I heard that they were laughing and cutting up. They'd done something big. Joe was driving. He ran over the little lady's legs. She was still alive. I don't know why they say, I guess Eric wanted Natasha to be the leader. It couldn't have been one of the boys. It couldn't have been the 14-year-old. The 14-year-old was on probation. He had just about beat somebody to death in Ohio, robbed a service station, had taken a girl there, kidnapped her, and took her with him there.
So you're saying that it was Eric's idea for them to plead guilty and then put the blame on Jason because he was a minor, he was a juvenile, and he wouldn't get serious charges?
Huh. That is so crazy.
Was that Eric's idea?
Those kids, I don't know who said that. I don't know if Eric said that. He's stupid. I mean, I thought he was a smart person, but he's stupid.
Well, then why did Natasha plead guilty?
Because all the rest of them did, and she didn't want to cause anybody to get the death penalty. She was the last one, I think. She called. She just told me this just not too long ago. She said, "Mom, I called Stacy Street the next day after she signed that paper, and she said I wanted to retract it. He wouldn't let her. He said he'd had to stand. She said she had heard that you could, but he wouldn't let her. She was willing to say that she was not guilty. By those kids saying, except for Jason, by those kids saying they were guilty, they perjured themselves. They lied. They didn't kill the Lily Lids. Jason Bryant did. Yeah, he was 14. How many more 14-year-olds have done the same thing around the same time?
Well, let me ask you this now. They're all still in prison, right? Every single one of them?
Right.
Now, and what's going on now? Is there an appeals process? Are they trying to get a new trial? What's going on today?
Natasha has run out of hers. I think Karen maybe has an appeal left. I don't know about Jason. He hasn't said anything. He owned up to it to some people there where they took him to first. He said that he killed them, but he hadn't been read his rights, so they couldn't use it. But he owned up to it. But he hasn't so far. He hasn't yet. I mean, he hasn't said anything.
And what does Dean say?
I just can't understand a person like Eric Kahn that is supposed to be so educated using these, I call them children, for his own benefit. I think he should have to stay there a little bit longer because of what he did to Natasha and those children. I think he should have to be tried for that too. I can't afford a trial. I wrote attorneys. I called one in Knoxville, I think it was, and I asked him, how much it would cost. And he said he'd have to have $150,000 to start. I couldn't even come up with $100.
Yeah, well, it's a murder trial, yeah. Now, Eric Kahn, he was there for the guilty plea? That was his plan?
I have no idea. I guess
was
in Valley, that's, he wrote out a paper for Natasha to, I guess, give to me and put it in the news or something like that. But it wasn't any good either. I don't know if he wrote it or what. But Eric was on drugs, I think, himself.
Do you still have that paper he gave you?
I gave it to a lady that works at the radio station down here. She had a little episode about Natasha and them on the radio station. They have a TV station down there too. And I've never got the papers and everything back.
What did it say?
I don't know. She's probably forgot about them.
But what did the paper say?
It was just telling the kids to all sort of get together and not let things like just bother them and to that they had rights, and I really don't exactly know. I mean exactly what it said, but it was bad enough. But Eric did so many things. He came up to the house after Natasha was put in jail down at Greenville. He had his secretary come up and take the walls down first, one wall. And then he came up and he wanted to go back in her bedroom, and I said, okay. Well, when I walked back in there, and he had pulled drawers out. It was a waterbed, and there's drawers underneath. He had pulled the drawers out on the side next to the wall, tore the drawers all to pieces, and he had pulled all the drawers out, had searched everything in that room. I don't know what he was looking for, but then he just walked out. I mean, he left it in the same shape that he made it. And I still don't know what. And then one time, he had me to tape one of his secretaries and her mother. Why, I don't know. I was supposed to ask him certain things. I forget what it was now. But I had the tape there, and it recorded. What Eric did with it, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this, though. If Natasha had not pleaded guilty, she would have gotten the death penalty, correct?
She would have got the death penalty.
Right.
They told them that if they didn't plead guilty, they would get the death penalty. Even before the trial, they would get the death penalty. How did they know? That's just like the judge that was over that hearing. He was out all of 1 hour for lunch, came back in and pronounced their sentences. Just like there was one place down there that had built 6 nooses at a service station. They wanted to hang them all. The prosecuting attorney told on television, I saw it myself, that Natasha was the most evil person he had ever met. If he hasn't met any more evil than Natasha, he hasn't met any evil people at all.
How did it come about that the story is that Natasha was the leader of this group? And that it was her idea to go down to New Orleans, and she was the one pretty much running all these rituals and stuff, and the seances.
I think that was from her so-called friends that used to come and stay in my house. And I know of one boy that he came in and stayed with his girlfriend there for a week or two, and he got on television and said that if anybody killed anybody, it was Natasha. I mean, here Natasha was trying to help those kids. She knew that I would feed them, that I would let them stay there, and they stabbed us in the back.
Did any of the other co-defendants ever say that Natasha pulled the trigger? No one claimed that Natasha pulled the trigger, right? Ever?
No.
Right. Okay.
No, nobody. I mean, everybody says that Jason is the one.
Right. And also Dean, too. Dean was shooting the 9mm. Right.
Dean and Crystal was in that car behind the van. They didn't even get out of the car, I don't think, there when the people were shot.
And then Dean is the one driving who drove over the children?
No, Joe.
Joe. There was another one, Joe. Okay.
Yeah.
6 altogether.
It was Joe.
All right. And you knew all these people before they went down there?
Yes.
Have you been in contact with any of them after the conviction?
Karen, I've not talked to her, but I've seen some of her relatives.
All right.
But I haven't talked, exactly to her or anything. But Natasha, she was there with Natasha in Nashville there for a while, and now they've moved her. Crystal and Karen are in the new prison that's close to, it's past Memphis, I think.
How often do you talk to Natasha on the phone?
Well, sometimes it could be 2 times a month, and sometimes it could be 6 and 7 times. When she first went down there, she was calling, quite often, and
sure,
it was very expensive at that time. She used a lot of her money that her dad left her because I couldn't afford it. I mean, she was paying for the phone calls. So now we have a system that she just has to pay $1 on her side, and it costs me $2 on my side.
JPay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating, too. People should realize that you think a phone call. Right now, people have Skype. It's free. I'm talking to Madonna Wallen right now for free over Skype. But when you're in prison, it's like $3 a minute. It's insane.
Now, the way it was close to $50
yeah.
for she could talk 30 minutes, and that's what it would cost when she would call at first.
Right.
When she first went in.
And sometimes a prison only needs, like, let's say a prison wants to talk to me. We have to put $50 or $30 on that account. There's a minimum you can put on it, even if you only have one conversation with them. You're paying $40, $50 just for a 5-minute conversation. It's insane. It's insane. Now, we're out of time, though. We're pretty much out of time. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want the audience to know about?
Well, let's see. I know there was so much that we didn't, get onto, but I know that Natasha and Karen and Crystal and Dean, I'm pretty sure they didn't have anything to do with, what went on. The people that stayed with me, the ones that told that Natasha was the leader, that Natasha was the Satanist, Natasha did the occult and all that stuff. Well, if she did anything like that, I saw the cuts on her arms. I knew something was wrong with her, but not something. If she had been going to kill somebody with all this hatred that, and all this occult stuff that she had in her head, so people said, why didn't she kill me? If this was what she was going to do, if she was going to take a total stranger out and shoot him, I was the one that was causing her problems. I was the one that's trying to make her mind, trying to do, what was right. So how can these kids that got it there on radio or television or whatever, why did they want to hurt her? That's what I can't understand.
And your website is Free Natasha Corbett. You can find it on Facebook, right?
Cornett,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a page on there that just says Natasha Cornett.
Right.
And it has a lot of stuff on it. And then there's one that another person has on there. It's Free Natasha Cornett.
Madonna, Wallen, thank you so much. If something else comes up and you want to tell the audience, just get a hold of me. We'll put you right back on the air, okay?
Well, if I could probably talk all night.
Yeah.
And I didn't touch on a lot of the stuff that should have been about what Natasha's doing now that she's in prison.
Okay.
And what she has accomplished.
Then let's do this, because I have to have a hard break right now. But let's do this. I'll call you in about a week. We'll record like another hour, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Madonna Wallen,
I'd appreciate it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, that's Madonna Wallen, the mother of Natasha Cornett. Now, we didn't... That's the mother of the convicted murderer. And we didn't get into a lot of details of what the murder was. And I got to get the details out here because it is pretty horrific. Okay, these 6 adults, there were 5 of them were adults, and one of them was a juvenile, 14 years old, but the other 5 were adults. Get in his car to go down to New Orleans. They run across this family of Jehovah's Witnesses, a mother, a father, and 2 kids. And the father tries to proselytize to them to get them to become Jehovah's Witnesses. And they come up with this plan. They're going to steal their van. And they took them to they took them to a picnic table at another location, a more remote location. And then they shot the mother and the father. And if you look at this is what the defendants say in court. Parents are pleading, let our kids go. Don't let the kids. This is an elaborate guilty plea. And they went into detail in this. And they shot one of the children in the eye. There is an occult significance to shooting to the eye. By the way, too, they had just been evicted. They were vandalized a motel room the night before where they had done these triangle rituals with blood in the motel room. And when they shot the mother and the father, they shot them in 3 times in the chest in a triangle formation. And they were also caught too. And when each of them were caught with items from the victims in their possession when they were caught. a great deal of occult significance to this. And when the children survived, they survived the shootings, they drove over them with the van, the stolen van. And that's what ultimately killed the kids. And one little boy survived. He was shot in the eye, and I believe shot in the hip, and crippled, and but blind in one eye to this day. So that's the significance of the murder and what this is all about, and how she was described as Satan's daughter, and all the things around that. So, but we just had her mother on, and God bless her. That's the girl's mother. My child. I would be the same way. We can look back at this and say, hey, listen, the system did fail, and the schools failed, the medical system failed. These were all troubled kids in crisis, and dabbled in and you think it's harmless. You start dabbling in these Ouija boards and these tarot cards and stuff like that. So, it's just harmless, it's just fun. The zodiac and the astrology, it's just all fun. But it's little by little, and you can develop an obsession with this until these demons that you contact, and they demand blood sacrifice. And there was even a story, too, that a letter delivered from Natasha from prison, where she would ask a friend, when she was in jail being held, asking her friend to conduct a blood ritual in order for Satan to release her from prison. So there's a lot to this story here that you need to know the full context. Thank you so much, Madonna Wallen. Again, too, hey, listen, I don't like to see anybody in prison. Listen, everybody deserves a fair trial. I don't believe their representation was 100% correct. This Eric Kahn is the one who went to the public and to the press with all this stuff about this Satanism, because otherwise these things are just covered up. They don't talk about it at all. So there's that, guys, okay? If you enjoyed today's show, there's always more content. And the next hour I'm going to do a commentary, too, for the members section. I'm exhausted right now. I might do it tomorrow. But we're going to put a commentary in the members section after every show. I give you a little commentary. This time I had to do a commentary during the show because I had to tell you what the facts of the case were. I might even do one before the show. But there's extra content in the member section, and that's what supports the show and keeps the show live on the air and on Spreaker and Stitcher and Podbean and iHeart and iTunes. We're able to give you all those shows for free by people who support the member section, which is exclusive content, exclusive interviews, plus the commentary section where I comment on every show. After every interview, I do a commentary. Okay, we're not talking about our 1 hour solo show that I do where I just rant and rave about politics and stuff like that. We're talking about after an interview like this, I'll do a half hour or 20 minutes commentary on the show. I did one about the socialism sucks. Anyway, we'll be talking about all that in the after show. I'm working on a project right now regarding the McMartin preschool case, if you're not familiar with that. Where I believe I can get my hands on some real good evidence. I need to take a trip to California. If you want to help support that, you can contact me at oppermanreport@gmail.com and become a member. You still get a membership, I'm not asking for, you get a membership, but I'll give you 13 months for $60. Okay? If you contact me at oppermanreport.com, and this month that money will go to fund this trip to California to get this evidence. Which I would love to come back and wave in front of everybody's face. Thank you so much, Madonna Wallen. And the story is the Lillard murders, Lillelid murders, and also to this Natasha Cornett. She's also known as Satan's daughter, the true story of Natasha Cornett. There's a book about that. I'm trying to get a hold of that author of that book too to come on the show here. Thank you so much, Madonna Wallen. Once they're locked in that car, they think they got to listen to the show. iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Podbean, Podcast, YouTube, all that stuff. Played everywhere, all over the place. You can't miss the show. 10 different internet stations, People's Internet Radio, Public Streaming Network, awakeradio.us, IPM Nation, and now on Ocelli.com. On Chuck Ocelli put us on his station. So you can't, it's a rock bottom prices to advertise on the show, and that's how you help support the show. Also become a member, OppermanReport.com, or contact me for a discount, OppermanReport@gmail.com. Thank you so much, John Elite. I'm looking forward to being stalked by all these characters here. He got me hooked up with www.elitedarkesthour.com. That's ALITE. We'll have his book in the Opperman Report book store on our website.